Good evening. You're watching The Big Story, where we discuss the hottest topics of the day. I'm Olivia Kuei, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. Now, China has changed how its coronavirus cases are tabulated. The total will now include clinically diagnosed cases, which are those patients who demonstrate all the symptoms of the disease officially known as COVID-19, but have been unable to be scientifically tested or died before they were tested. As a result of the broader guidelines, confirmed cases in Hubei province shot up to nearly 50,000, with the number of deaths rising as well by 242 to now stand at 1,310. The total number of confirmed cases in China has climbed to over 59,800. Hundreds of infections have been reported in more than 24 other countries and territories, but only 2 people have died from the virus outside mainland China, one in Hong Kong and another in the Philippines. Back in China, though, 2 top Chinese officials at the center of the outbreak have been replaced. Jiang Chaoliang was removed from his post as Communist Party Secretary for Hubei, and the party chief of Hubei's capital city, Wuhan, Ma Guoqiang, was also sacked. I'm joined now by China correspondent Elizabeth Law. Now, Liz, let's start with the removal of the 2 party chiefs. What particular instances led to their sacking?
Well, hi, Olivia. Thanks for having me today. Well, I think we first have to look at from when this, at the very beginning, when all of this started, because it has been a series of unfortunate events that have led to this. Because first, there was criticism that the Wuhan and Hubei provincial authorities had sat on this for a very long time. They knew that this was happening, and in fact, they just sat on information. We had doctors who were raising the alarm that this was happening in hospitals, and they censured these doctors. Yep. They were arrested by the police, and then they were made to sign sort of I wouldn't call them confession letters, but they were made to sign these letters promising that they would stop spreading fake news and rumors like that. And then when it finally came to it, when the city was put under lockdown, there were now this criticism that there were not enough medical supplies, that donations and supplies that were being donated were now being sent to other places. So it was all quite badly managed, and it's been a long time coming as well. So I wouldn't say it comes as a huge shock.
Right. Well, before this, 2 top members of the Provincial Health Commission were already removed from their posts, and now, these 2 sackings. So would you say that this is the biggest political fallout so far?
No, as I said earlier, I mean, sorry, to go back to what I said, yes, it is, because this is the most senior political, I wouldn't call it beheading, but it's the most senior felling of officers that we've seen so far, because previously it was just health officials from the provincial level, but now it is party officials. So party officials, and in terms of hierarchy, basically the people from the party, your party chiefs, they come up with the long-term policies. They come up with the policies, and then when you have your city mayors, they are the ones who do the day-to-day running of the city and the business. So for the party chief to be removed, it is really quite a big deal. Of course, many had suspected that the Wuhan mayor would have been removed as well, because he had this very contrite interview with state broadcaster CCTV, and he is the guy, if you remember, who was the one when he was at a press conference, he actually wore a surgical mask upside down. So that wasn't too great either. And of course, we know that China's censors have actually allowed criticism of the provincial authorities to remain on the internet, but for some reason, the Wuhan mayor has escaped this.
Well, because of, let's go high up the ladder, right up to the top. Because of how the government is handling the contagion, whether it's seen as adequate or inadequate, is Chinese President Xi Jinping in a vulnerable position now?
No, I honestly don't think so. He basically has put Premier Li Keqiang in charge of the centralized efforts to deal with this outbreak. So basically, if this doesn't go well, President Xi would say, look, Premier Li was in charge of it. If it goes well, because the president is at the head of it, so I don't think he is in a vulnerable position at all. And don't forget, I mean, despite the fact that the censors have allowed criticism of the provincial government to remain on the internet, other criticism and information within China is still very, very much controlled.
Right. Well, let's move away from this. As mentioned earlier, we've learned that China has expanded its diagnostic guidelines for confirming cases. What are the differences between the old and the new methods, and what else does this mean?
Right. Okay. So the old method, which is according to WHO guidelines, which is that you have to exhibit symptoms of it, you have to have pneumonia or some sort of respiratory tract disease, and then you have to have a CT scan which would show lesions on your lungs, and then your samples have to be lab tested to show that there is COVID. No, sorry, I mean there is the virus, the coronavirus in it, that particular strain. Well, now they're saying that they are allowing clinical diagnosis to be counted under the official numbers, which means that as long as you exhibit symptoms of it, or there is a possibility that you are infected, and you have the CT scan or X-ray of your lungs shows the lesions to prove it, that is enough. You don't have to be lab tested. Is it good or bad? Well, in fact, actually, it's not a bad thing, because I was just in an online briefing with a epidemiologist. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Well, so he says that there are three categories of how you diagnose someone whenever there are outbreaks like that. You have suspected cases, you have probable cases, and then you have confirmed cases. Technically, what they are saying, this clinical diagnosis is what we know as probable cases, where you already do have you know that they have sort of exposure to cases, and you wouldn't want to waste a test kit on them, and also because when you always have to send every sample if you need a confirmed case to be confirmed by lab testing, this means that the number of cases that you can confirm every day is limited by the testing capability of your labs. So by having this clinical diagnosis thing, or what we know in the rest of the world as probable case methodology, it in fact is a better thing.
Right. Well, with the new guidelines and subsequent rise in numbers, should we be concerned about the true scale of this outbreak?
I honestly don't think so. I think actually this is a really good thing, because for weeks now, since this outbreak first started, people have been saying that the true scale of this outbreak is much bigger than it really is. And I think by using these numbers, it really gives us a better sense of how big the scale is, and we can work towards containment. But bear in mind, right now, this is only being used in Hubei province, which is the epicenter of all of this. And I suppose if this gets rolled out to China as a whole, it would actually be much better, and it would relieve some of the pressure that is being put on the healthcare system.
Well, thank you so much, Liz. Always a pleasure talking to you. You can visit straitstimes.com to read her story on China's new clinical methods of diagnosis. Back home, there are now 50 confirmed cases in Singapore, with 3 new ones confirmed yesterday. All 3 didn't travel to China recently. But some good news, 6 more patients were discharged from hospital yesterday, bringing the total number of those who have recovered to 15. But as of yesterday, there are 5 clusters here involving a total of 21 locally transmitted cases. The 5th cluster is the Grace Assembly of God Church in Tanglin and Bukit Batok. It's linked to 2 of the latest confirmed cases, who both work at the church's sites. The earlier known clusters are Seletar Aerospace Heights, the Life Church and Mission Singapore, Grand Hyatt Hotel, and a Chinese health products shop Yong Tai Hung. 3 patients linked to that cluster were discharged yesterday, along with 3 others. 15 in total have now recovered. Well, journalist Timothy Goh, who's been covering the coronavirus from the start, joins me now. Tim, what are these clusters doing, or what have they done to curb the spread of the coronavirus? For instance, are they limiting the number of people who can enter these premises?
Hi, Olivia. Well, I think we can focus on what the 2 churches and the construction site are doing, since they're the more recent clusters. For Life Church and Mission Singapore, what they've done is they've stopped cell group meetings and home gatherings to minimize the spread of the virus. They've also engaged a professional cleaning company to clean the premises. And the church has stopped all its physical meetings and services for at least 2 weeks. This is similar to measures that are being employed in Grace Assembly of God. In this case, services and activities at both of its branches have been stopped for 2 weeks as well. And there are no online sermons, as the entire team has been split in half. So half of them are working from home, while the other half are still working from the premises. They've also suspended classes, Bible studies, and all non-essential face-to-face meetings for this period, and disinfection has been done too. For the construction site, the Seletar Aerospace Heights, the company overseeing the works on the site has quarantined 3 of its employees, and the site is operating with additional healthcare measures such as temperature screenings in place. So all mass meetings at the work sites have been suspended. and they prepared backup staff to take over the duties from those who are being quarantined or placed on LOA.
Right. Well, in light of the emergence of the fifth cluster, as we know, is at a Grace Assembly Church of God, should the public avoid places where large numbers congregate?
That's a very good question. I think avoiding crowded places in general is a good guideline if you want to avoid falling ill, regardless of the illness that you have. But specific instructions have been given to certain groups. For example, organizers have already been told by MOH to they're advised to cancel or postpone large-scale events. Foreign domestic workers have been advised to avoid large gatherings in crowded places on off days. And those who are unwell or on LOA are not supposed to go out and should avoid crowds. Now, that being said, there are no really hard and fast rules in place. But if you do wish to go out into a crowded place, you should practice good hygiene. And by this, I mean wash your hands with soap and sanitize regularly, and remember not to touch your face with unwashed hands. That's the most important thing.
Right. Well, I want to ask you about the situation over at DBS. We learned yesterday that around 300 employees were told to work from home. So what's the latest there?
Well, currently, we know that the case that's confirmed at DBS is case number 50. He's a 62-year-old man who went to work on Tuesday and was confirmed with infection yesterday. Now, a bit about the evacuation. We did ask the Director of Medical Services yesterday, and he said that it's not actually standard operating procedure for all places to evacuate upon confirmation of a case. Employers do need to clean up the premises, and the premises must be inspected afterwards, but whether they want to evacuate is up to them. That being said, after DBS's decision, they decided to disinfect and deep clean the areas in accordance with MOH guidelines, and contact tracing is being carried out for all employees and others that the employee may have come into contact with. As an additional precaution, all DBS employees are being given a personal hygiene and protection care pack, which includes masks, a thermometer, hand sanitizer, and some vitamin C from next week.
Great. Well, thanks so much for your time, Tim. That was journalist Timothy Goh, who's been covering the coronavirus situation in Singapore for several weeks, and you can read his story on straitstimes.com. Meanwhile, in line with Dawes-Corn Orange, public spaces across the island have stepped up their efforts to keep places clean. Changi Airport is no exception. As an important gateway connecting Singapore to the world, the Changi Airport Group has outlined enhanced precautionary measures being taken to combat the coronavirus. Here's Farzana Friday with this report.
As Changi Airport is an important gateway connecting Singapore to the world, it is important that it remains operationally ready amidst the current time of the coronavirus. I'm here today to see what measures are being taken by the airport to keep it clean and sanitized amidst the global health crisis. While flights transmitting through and coming from China have dipped 70 to 80%, Changi Airport has stepped up its cleaning measures. Cleaning at high-touch areas such as the thumbprint scanners at immigration points have more than doubled in frequency. Tech has also been brought into play. An electrostatic gun with disinfectant to kill any germs and bacteria is used 4 times a day to coat high-touch surfaces like the self-check-in kiosks. More than 1,200 hand sanitizers are stationed across all areas, and disinfectants have been added to strengthen cleaning solutions. Visitors to Jewel Changi can also expect hand sanitizers at key touchpoints, such as concierge counters and at entrances and exits of attractions. Additionally, the Manulife Skynet attraction uses a pressurized jet spray to clean it nightly. As always, Changi Airport is willing to go the extra mile. For the first time, it's using an ozone-infused water to clean the toilets. It is a stronger cleaner and disinfectant than chlorine. Pasana Friday for the Straits Times.
Thanks, Friday. And as we alluded to on yesterday's show, the 2019 Straits Times Singaporean of the Year was crowned on Tuesday at a gala event at the Istana. 56-year-old Angie Chu was awarded the title for her contribution to society and helping those with mental health issues as well as the elderly. After going through her own struggles, she channeled her efforts towards helping others by setting up the Brahm Centre, providing emotional and mental support. This is her story.
I'm very aware that I have less tomorrows than yesterdays. So I want to make every day of my life count, that I'm able to give my time and energy to inspire as many people as possible. And that way, they will in turn be inspiring others. I started the center in 2012 after my mother passed away, having suffered from depression, dementia, and stroke. It was a difficult time, and Her health issues contributed to the marital issues that I had. So after having gone through such a painful period in my life, I decided that instead of condemning the darkness, is to light a candle. That means to set up a center that will help fill this gap and offer people the opportunity and a place where they can come to for free health education, as well as support and counseling, and also a skill that could help them cope better with the stresses in their life. So the mindfulness course offers them the skill and techniques to enhance their own self-awareness. Because through the enhancement of self-awareness, then we are aware of what are the thoughts that are going through our mind. What are those judgments that we have, the prejudices, the biases that affect our ability to communicate with the other person. The awareness of what we're saying when we're saying it. I think I had a very fortunate life. And although I did suffer from anxiety and depression, which also made me more compassionate and empathetic to others, I have still so much that I can give. And instead of benefiting whatever I have gained from other kind people, it is now my turn.
Well, I'm very pleased to have Angie Chu on the show. Welcome, Angie. And of course, congratulations, the award, which is sitting right over there. So when you won, you mentioned that it was a big win for mental health. So how far do you think this award, or winning this award, will go in supporting your efforts in raising awareness and support for mental illness and mental health?
Well, I feel that now people may find it more comfortable and more confident to approach us, and also other agencies and clinicians who are providing mental health support, because so many people have been suffering in silence. Recently, I just received another email saying that this lady knows that she has a lot of anxiety, and when she started taking medication for it, her mother found the medication and threw them away and said, you don't have a problem. And you know, this is going to be very damaging to your career if you see a doctor about a mental health condition.
Right. Well, what have the reactions been so far since, you know, you won the award 2 days ago? Have you heard from family, friends, you know, even clients at the Brahm Center?
Yes, I had so many WhatsApp messages that even at 12:30 midnight, I couldn't finish replying them. And I finally just fell asleep. And I'm still trying to catch up with all the WhatsApp messages and emails and on Facebook posts. So I'm very grateful to everyone who has congratulated me.
Right. I guess stepping back a bit, how would you assess the current situation in Singapore? You know, how mental health and illness is addressed? And what are the avenues that we have for treatment?
Well, I think that the treatment has to be very complementary between taking medication or counseling or psychotherapy, because medication can't medicate and treat depression by not understanding what the underlying causes are for this depression to have even been triggered. So there has to be a collaborative effort in helping people with mental health conditions. And sometimes people have conditions that they also deny because they're too afraid to be open about it, as they may be seen to be weak or seen to be unworthy of future promotions or consideration for higher or bigger jobs. So there's a lot of fear there. And we hope that this win is going to help people to be more open and more forthcoming. There's a whole lot more work that still needs to be done, but I think we're taking a few big steps forward.
Right. So tell us more about your work with the Brahm Center. What services do you provide? I mean, we saw a glimpse earlier in the video, but please give us more details.
Yeah, so we do provide counseling services. We also provide a distress line. And our counseling services have also extended to companies signing up with us to provide their employees with emotional support and also counseling for their staff to get over whether it's their anxiety towards a new job, or even some of them have relationship problems. So we're very glad that's really taking off. And we have this assist line, as we call it, for distressed parents and students to be able to WhatsApp or call in anonymously if they wish to remain that way, or they may even be coming forward. So we've been at one point supporting somebody who was quite suicidal, and we had to even accompany him down from the 14th floor over the phone. And it was very, Yeah, nerve-wracking, but it was rewarding to know that now he has gone for appropriate treatment and is now stabilizing. So there's a whole range of services that we provide, including mindfulness courses. And that is a course that helps people to become aware or more aware of the connection between the mind and the body. Because of the way we're educated and the way we are being paid to do our job, which is everything to do with our brain, that we often forget that we actually have a body that we live in. So if our thoughts are very negative, our thoughts are very distressing, it has a physiological effect on our body.
Right.
And it could be as simple as if I just suggest to you now that think of your favorite food, that you really love to eat, something that you crave for. And you may now start noticing saliva being excreted.
It's almost dinner time.
Yes.
Let's go for dinner, yeah.
Yes, so the power of thought is often underestimated because it does have an effect on our body.
Right.
The consistency of our blood changes, our heartbeat can change, our rate of breathing, our blood pressure, our sugar level. So if we're not aware of what we're thinking when we're thinking it, and we are indulging in thoughts that are very negative and complaining in the manner of being very critical, then we are causing harm to this body.
Right. Well, of course, I can't let you go without asking you about how we should mentally prepare ourselves in our fight against, the coronavirus. So amid this nationwide effort, worldwide effort to curb the spread, you started a 1-hour mindfulness session for viewers to de-stress on the Brahm Center Facebook page. So what's your advice for all of us, how can we keep calm, rational, and I guess stave away the fear?
Yeah, so I think we have to put things in perspective. I mean, first of all, I'd like to really thank Ministry of Health for doing a really marvelous job and our healthcare workers. And what we have here is 50 people out of 5 million. That is 0.001%. And, I don't think we need to have a sense of fear that stops us from living, from connecting up with people and socializing and getting on with life. But we need to respect the virus rather than fear the virus. So when we respect the virus, we will do things and adjust our habits in order to be more hygienic. And we don't shake hands because that's never been a really great habit. Actually, it's not Asian anyway, this shaking hand, and passes so much germs across from one person to another. To make sure people wash their hands after going to the loo or before they pick food up with their hands. So I think this whole awareness is probably good in the long term. And if we do get the virus, it's not to get frightened about it, it's to learn how to be relaxed and calm, and then let the body do its work, like it's always been doing its work against other influences and other types of illnesses that we may have contracted in the past. And when we're calm, we're happy, our body does a better job.
Right.
So I would say, everyone, please learn mindfulness because it really helps you to stay calm without all that fear that's just going to cause us not to think straight.
Right. And
buying tons of toilet rolls that it's not going to really serve us. So, and I would like to also urge people to come to our Singapore Mindfulness Conference. That's going to be 22nd, 23rd of August. That's in partnership with NUS, with National Health Group, IMH, as well as Sing Health. Right. So thank you for having me here.
The pleasure was ours. Thank you so much, Angie. We wish you all the best with the Brahm Center. And those are our top stories for today. Keep up to date with news in Singapore and around the world at straitstimes.com. I'm Olivia Quay. Join us tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.